Clara Brennan shoved her three sisters behind her back and faced the drunk who used to be their uncle. Inside the Silver Dollar Saloon, men were counting money, placing bids, not on horses, on her sisters. 12-year-old Lily had stopped breathing between sobs. Josie's hand found the kitchen knife hidden in her skirt. Emma crushed her sketchbook against her chest, like it could stop bullets. Uncle Warren had sold them to cover a poker debt. The auction started in 90 seconds. If you're watching from anywhere in the world, drop your city in the comments. I want to see how far this story reaches. Subscribe and stay until the end, because what happens next will shatter you and rebuild you from the ashes. Clara's back hit the saloon wall hard enough to rattle her teeth. "You listen to me, girl." Warren Brennan's whiskey breath washed over her face. "You walk in there quiet. You smile. You don't make trouble." Clara didn't blink. Or what? Warren's hand shot up. Clara caught his wrist before it connected with her face. She twisted, hard. Warren yelped and stumbled backward, cradling his arm. "You touch my sisters," Clara said, "I'll break more than your wrist." Behind her, Josie laughed, sharp and dangerous. "Let me do it, Clara. Please, just 5 minutes with him." "No." "He sold us. He sold Lily. She's 12 years old, and I know what he did." Clara released Warren's wrist. The man scrambled back, his face twisted between fear and fury. "You ungrateful little—" He stopped, swallowed. His eyes darted to the saloon doors. "Garrett's waiting. You think I want this? You think I had a choice?" "Everyone has a choice." "Not when you owe Silas Garrett $2,000. Warren's voice cracked. "Not when he owns the sheriff, the judge, half this goddamn territory." Clara stepped forward. Warren flinched. "Where's the deed?" "What?" "The deed to our parents' farm. The one you gambled away. Where is it?" Warren's face went gray. "Garrett has it. Signed over legal and proper. There ain't nothing. There's always something." Clara turned to her sisters. Josie stood with her feet planted wide, her hand still resting on the knife at her hip. 18 years old and ready to kill. She'd been ready since the day their father died. Emma had pressed herself against the wall, making herself small. 16 and disappearing. Her sketchbook was open, her pencil moving in frantic strokes, drawing what she couldn't speak. And Lily. Lily sat in the dirt, her knees pulled to her chest, her small body shaking with sobs that had gone silent. 12 years old, blonde curls matted with dust, blue eyes swollen nearly shut from crying. Clara's heart cracked down the middle. "Josie." "Yeah?" "If something happens to me in there, you take Emma and Lily and you run." "Like hell. That's an order." "You ain't Mama." Josie's voice broke. "You ain't Papa either. You're my sister, and I ain't leaving you." Clara grabbed Josie's face with both hands, forced her to meet her eyes. "Listen to me. You are the only one who can protect them if I fail. You hear me? The only one. So if this goes wrong, you run. You find somewhere safe. You keep them alive." Josie's jaw worked. Her eyes glistened. "I hate you." "I know." Clara released her. "Stay here." She walked toward the saloon doors. "Clara!" She stopped. Emma's voice, barely above a whisper. "Please come back." Clara didn't turn around. Couldn't. If she saw Lily's face one more time, she'd break. And she couldn't afford to break. Not yet. "Count to 300, she said. "If I'm not out by then, Josie knows what to do." She pushed through the doors. The silver dollar swallowed her whole. Smoke, sweat, spilled whiskey. the stench of men who'd stopped caring about decency long ago. Clara's eyes adjusted to the dim light, and her stomach turned to ice. The room was packed. Men lined the walls, filled the tables, crowded around a raised platform at the back where a podium stood waiting. Some wore range clothes, dust-covered and sun-faded. Others wore suits that cost more than her family's farm had been worth. All of them were looking at her. "Well, well." The voice cut through the noise like a blade through butter. Silas Garrett rose from a table near the platform. He was tall, lean, dressed in a gray suit so fine it looked wrong in this place. His dark hair was slicked back from a face that might have been handsome if his eyes held anything human. They didn't. "Miss Brennan," he smiled. "I was beginning to think you'd run." "I don't run." "No." Garrett moved toward her, and men parted to let him pass. "No, I don't suppose you do. That's what makes you valuable." Clara held her ground. "I'm not for sale." "Everything's for sale, my dear. It's simply a matter of finding the right price." "Then what's yours?" Garrett stopped. His smile flickered. "I beg your pardon?" "Your price." Clara kept her voice steady. "To let us go. All four of us." "Name it." Laughter rippled through the room. Someone called out something filthy. Clara ignored it. Garrett tilted his head, studying her like she was a horse he was considering purchasing. "You have money?" "I have land, skills. I can work." "You have nothing." Garrett's voice hardened. "Your uncle signed over the deed to your parents' farm 3 days ago. You have no property, no assets, no legal standing whatsoever." "Then why bother with an auction?" Clara stepped closer. "If we're worthless, why are all these men here?" The room went quiet. Garrett's eyes narrowed. "Because you're not worthless, Miss Brennan. You're young, healthy, capable of work and—" he paused. "Other services. Your sister's even more so, especially the little one." Clara's vision went red. "Touch Lily and I'll kill you." "You'll try." Garrett smiled again. "I've heard about you, Clara Brennan. You ran your family's farm for 2 years after your father died. Kept your sisters fed when half the territory was starving. Shot a man who tried to steal your horses." "I shot him in the leg." "My point exactly. You could have killed him, but you didn't. You're not a killer, Miss Brennan. You're a survivor." He leaned close. "And survivors know when to stop fighting." "This isn't that moment." "No?" Garrett pulled a folded paper from his jacket. "This is the deed to your parents' land, signed by Warren Brennan in exchange for the cancellation of his debts. Legal. Binding. Witnessed by the sheriff himself." Clara's hands curled into fists. "That land belonged to our parents, not Warren. He had no right." "He had every right. As your father's brother and your legal guardian, he had full authority over your family's assets." Garrett tucked the paper away. "Including you." "We're not assets." "The law says otherwise. Then the law is wrong." Garrett laughed, not cruel, almost genuine. "I like you, Miss Brennan. I truly do. It's a shame you're worth more as merchandise than as a business partner." He turned toward the platform. "Gentlemen, shall we begin?" "Wait." Clara's voice rang out across the room. Garrett paused, turned. $2,000, Clara said. "That's what Warren owed you. I'll pay it." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Garrett raised an eyebrow. "With what?" "Give me 6 months. I'll work. All 4 of us will work. We'll pay back every cent." "And if you can't?" "Then you get what you want anyway. But at least we'll have tried." Garrett considered this. For one heartbeat, Clara thought he might actually agree. Then he shook his head. 6 months is too long. My buyers have traveled from 3 territories to be here today. I won't disappoint them." He smiled. "But I admire your spirit. Tell you what, I'll start the bidding for you last. Give you a chance to watch your sisters go first. See exactly what kind of men will be owning them." Clara lunged. 2 men caught her before she got 3 steps. They wrenched her arms behind her back, forced her to her knees. She struggled, screamed, bit one of them hard enough to draw blood. It didn't matter. "Bring in the others," Garrett said calmly. "Let's start with the youngest." The doors opened. Warren stumbled in, dragging Lily by the arm. Josie came next, held by 2 men twice her size. Emma walked on her own, her face blank, her eyes dead. They'd been caught. Clara's heart stopped. "No." Her voice came out broken. "No, please, not them. Take me. Do whatever you want with me. Just let them go." Garrett crouched in front of her. His voice was soft, almost kind. "You still don't understand, do you? I don't want just you, Clara. I want all 4 of you. The complete set." He reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "You're worth more together than apart." Clara spat in his face. Garrett wiped his cheeks slowly. The kindness vanished. "Put her with the others. We'll sell the youngest first." They dragged her to where her sisters huddled together. Lily threw herself into Clara's arms, sobbing. Josie's face was a mask of fury and helplessness. Emma stared at nothing. "I'm sorry," Clara whispered. "I'm so sorry. I tried." "Shh." Josie's hand found hers. "We know." Garrett climbed onto the platform. The room buzzed with anticipation. "Gentlemen," his voice carried easily over the noise, "thank you for your patience. Today's auction features 4 items of exceptional quality. Sisters, all healthy and capable. Perfect for domestic service, farm work, or—" He paused meaningfully. "Personal companionship." Laughter. Crude comments. Men elbowing each other. Clara wanted to vomit. "We'll start with the youngest. Lily Brennan, 12 years old. Small, but healthy. Trainable." 2 men yanked Lily from Clara's arms. "No!" Clara fought against the hands holding her. "No, don't touch her. She's a child. She's just a child." Lily screamed, kicked, bit. They dragged her toward the platform anyway. "Opening bid," Garrett announced. $200. A man in a black hat raised his hand. 200. 250. 300. 350 from the gentleman in the back. Clara's world narrowed to a single point. Lily, her baby sister, being sold like livestock while she watched. 400. This couldn't be happening. 450. This couldn't be real. $500. Do I hear 550? The saloon doors exploded inward. Every head turned. A man stood in the doorway, tall, broad, covered in trail dust. His silhouette blocked the sun like an eclipse. He stepped inside, and Clara saw his face. A scar ran from his left eyebrow to his jaw. His nose was crooked from being broken and badly set. His eyes were gray as gunmetal and just as cold. He looked like violence given human form. "Auction's over," he said. His voice was quiet. It didn't need to be loud. Every man in the room heard it. Garrett's smile tightened. "Thornton, this is a private—" "I said the auction's over." The man, Thornton, walked forward. Men scrambled to get out of his way. He moved like a thunderstorm rolling across open prairie, inevitable, unstoppable. He stopped in front of the platform, looked at Lily, frozen in the grip of Garrett's men, looked at Clara, held down and helpless, looked at Josie and Emma, huddled together like frightened animals. Then he looked at Silas Garrett. How much? Garrett's eye twitched. Excuse me? For all four. How much? They're not for sale. Not to you. Everything's for sale. Thornton reached into his coat, pulled out a leather pouch, tossed it onto the platform. It landed heavy. Gold heavy. $3,000. That's more than these vultures would pay combined. Thornton's hand dropped to the gun at his hip. Take it or don't, but either way, these girls are leaving with me. The room held its breath. Garrett stared at the pouch, at Thornton, at the gun. You can't just... I can. Thornton's voice dropped even lower. I am. Now you've got exactly 10 seconds to decide whether you want to be rich or dead. One of Garrett's men reached for his weapon. Thornton drew and fired in a single motion. The bullet punched through the man's hand. He screamed and dropped, clutching the bloody mess. Nobody else moved. Thornton holstered his gun. His expression hadn't changed. 9 seconds. Garrett's face had gone pale. This isn't over, Thornton. 8. You think you can just... 7. Garrett grabbed the pouch. Fine. His voice shook with rage. Take them. But mark my words, this isn't over. Not by a long shot. It's over enough. Thornton turned to Clara. Get your sisters. We're leaving. Clara stared at him. This stranger who'd just bought them like cattle, who'd shot a man without blinking, who was now offering freedom, or perhaps just a different cage. Why? Does it matter? Yes. Something shifted in Thornton's gray eyes, something almost human. Because I've seen what happens to girls who get sold in places like this, and I'm tired of seeing it. He held out his hand. You coming or not? Clara looked at his hand, at the scars across his knuckles, at the calluses that spoke of hard work and harder living. She looked at her sisters, Lily still crying, Josie watching Thornton with suspicious eyes, Emma sketching furiously in her book as if her life depended on capturing this moment. She looked at Garrett, clutching the gold, his face twisted with hatred. And she made her choice. Josie, Emma, get Lily. They moved. Within seconds, all four sisters were heading for the door. Thornton walked backward, keeping his eyes on the room. His hand never left his gun. Nobody tried to stop them. The sunlight hit Clara's face like a blessing. She kept walking, past the saloon, past the staring townspeople, past the life she'd known and the future she'd feared. A wagon waited at the end of the street. 2 horses, old but strong. Get in, Thornton said. All of you. Josie hesitated. Where are we going? My ranch, 20 miles northeast. And then what? Thornton climbed into the driver's seat. His back was to them. His voice was flat. Then we figure out how to keep you alive. Clara helped Lily into the wagon. The girl was shaking so hard she could barely climb. Emma followed, then Josie, who positioned herself to watch Thornton's back. Clara took the seat beside him. Thank you, she said quietly. Thornton didn't respond. He flicked the reins and the wagon lurched forward. They were 2 miles out of town when Lily collapsed. Clara! Emma's voice was sharp with fear. Something's wrong with Lily. Clara scrambled into the wagon bed. Lily lay crumpled against the side, her face flushed, her breath coming in shallow gasps. Clara pressed her hand to Lily's forehead. Burning. She's got a fever. Clara's voice cracked. A bad one. She was fine this morning. How? Shock. Thornton's voice cut through her panic. Heat. Fear. Her body shutting down. What do we do? Thornton whipped the horses harder. The wagon picked up speed. We ride. That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got. Clara pulled Lily into her lap. The girl's eyes were closed now. Her breathing was getting worse. Don't you dare, Clara whispered. Don't you dare leave me, Lily. You hear me? You stay. You fight. That's what Brennan girls do. We fight. Lily didn't respond. The miles blurred together. Sun, dust, heat. The endless rhythm of hooves against packed earth. Emma held Lily's hand and prayed. Josie watched the horizon for pursuit, and Clara held her baby sister and bargained with every god she'd ever heard of. When the ranch finally appeared, Clara barely registered it. Stone walls, timber beams, a fortress built into the base of a cliff. Thornton pulled the wagon to a hard stop, jumped down, and threw open the door of a small building. Bring her. Clara carried Lily inside. The room was cool, dark. A table sat in the center. Thornton swept everything off it. Put her here. Clara obeyed. Thornton was already moving. Water, cloths, bottles of something that smelled sharp and medicinal. What are you doing? Josie demanded. Saving her life. Thornton soaked a cloth, wrung it out, pressed it to Lily's forehead. If you want to help, there's a well behind the building. Fill every bucket you can find. Josie ran. Emma hovered near the door. Is she going to die? Thornton didn't look up. Not if I can help it. Hours passed. Thornton worked without stopping, cooling Lily's skin, forcing water between her cracked lips, crushing herbs and making poultices. His hands were steady. His face was stone. Clara watched him and tried to understand. Who was this man? Why had he saved them? What did he want? The questions burned in her chest, but she didn't ask. Couldn't ask. Not while Lily's life hung in the balance. The sun set. Stars emerged. The desert night turned cold. And finally, Lily's breathing steadied. Her fever broke. Her eyes fluttered open. Clara? Clara was there in an instant, holding her hand, crying tears she hadn't known she had left. I'm here, baby. I'm right here. Where are we? Clara looked at Jacob Thornton. He stood in the corner now, exhausted, blood on his hands, watching them with those empty gray eyes. Somewhere safe, Clara said. Thornton turned away, walked toward the door. There's food in the main house. Beds upstairs. Help yourselves. Wait. He stopped. Clara stood, crossed the room to stand in front of him. Why? Her voice was barely above a whisper. Why did you do this? All of it. The money, the ride, saving Lily. Why? Thornton was silent for a long moment. Then, I had a daughter once, Emma. She was 8. Clara's heart clenched. What happened to her? She died. Thornton's voice was flat, empty. She and her mother both. Fire. 18 years ago. I'm sorry. Don't be. It was a long time ago. He reached for the door. Get some sleep, Miss Brennan. Tomorrow we figure out what comes next. Clara. He paused. My name is Clara, not Miss Brennan. Something shifted in his face, almost too quick to catch. Clara, he repeated. Get some sleep, Clara. He walked out into the night. Clara stood in the doorway and watched him disappear into the darkness. Behind her, Lily was sleeping peacefully. Josie was arguing with Emma about guard shifts. The nightmare of Dusty Springs was 20 miles and a lifetime away. They were safe, for now. But as Clara watched the shadow swallow Jacob Thornton whole, she couldn't shake the feeling that their story was just beginning, and that the hardest parts were still to come. Clara woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of her sisters arguing. She sat up fast, her hand reaching for a weapon that wasn't there. The unfamiliar room registered slowly. Stone walls, wooden beams, sunlight streaming through a small window. Thornton Ridge. They were at Thornton Ridge. The memories crashed back. The auction, the gunshot, Lily's fever. Jacob Thornton's gray eyes telling her his daughter died 18 years ago. She was still wearing yesterday's dress. Her boots were caked with dust. Her whole body ached like she'd been thrown from a horse. But she was alive. Her sisters were alive. That was enough. Clara followed the voices downstairs and found chaos in the kitchen. Josie stood at the stove, poking at something in a pan with a wooden spoon. Smoke rose from whatever she was attempting to cook. Emma sat at the table with her sketchbook, drawing with intense concentration. And Lily was there too, pale but upright, wrapped in a blanket that dwarfed her small frame. "You're up." Josie didn't turn around. "I'm making breakfast, or trying to. This stove hates me." "The stove doesn't hate you." Emma's pencil scratched across paper. "You just don't know how to cook." "I know how to cook." "Burning things isn't cooking." "It's not burned, it's crispy." "It's on fire, Josie." Josie looked down. Flames licked up from the pan. "Damn it." She grabbed the pan and threw it into the sink. Water hissed. Smoke billowed. Clara crossed the room and opened a window before they all choked. "I had it under control," Josie muttered. "You really didn't." Clara turned to Lily. "How do you feel?" "Better." Lily's voice was still weak, but her eyes were clear. "Tired. Hungry." "We're working on the hungry part," Josie said. "Or we were before the stove betrayed me." Clara examined the kitchen. Clean, well-stocked, better equipped than their old farmhouse had ever been. "Where's Thornton?" "Don't know," Josie shrugged. "Haven't seen him since last night. There's a note on the table." Clara picked up the folded paper. The handwriting was rough. Practical. "Gone to check the perimeter. Help yourselves to food. Don't leave the house." That was all. No explanation. No instructions, just an order and an absence. "Friendly," Josie said. "Real warm welcome." "He saved our lives." Emma didn't look up from her drawing. "He doesn't have to be friendly." "He bought us, Emma, like cattle. Forgive me if I'm not ready to write him love letters." "He didn't buy us. He bought our freedom." "Same thing." "It's not the same thing at all." "Girls," Clara set down the note, "enough. We need to eat. Then we need to figure out what happens next." She took over the stove, found eggs in a basket, bread in a box, butter in a crock. Simple food. Real food. The first proper meal they'd had in days. They ate in silence at first. Then Lily spoke. "Clara, are we safe here?" Clara looked at her youngest sister. 12 years old. Nearly sold to the highest bidder yesterday. Nearly died of fever last night. And still asking the questions that mattered. "I don't know," Clara said honestly. "I hope so." "But you're not sure?" "I'm not sure of anything right now, except that we're together, and that's what matters." Lily nodded slowly, went back to her eggs. Josie pushed her plate away. "We need weapons." "Josie, don't Josie me. That man Garrett isn't going to forget what happened. He lost money. He lost face. Men like that don't let things go." "She's right." Emma's voice was quiet. "I saw his eyes when Thornton took his gold. He's going to come after us. Clara had seen it too. The hatred burning beneath Garrett's smooth surface, the promise of revenge. "Then we prepare," she said. "We learn this place. We find out what resources we have. And we don't make ourselves easy targets." "And Thornton?" Josie asked. "Do we trust him?" Clara thought about the question. Really thought. "I don't know yet. But he hasn't hurt us. He saved Lily. That buys him some time." "How much time?" "Enough to figure out who he really is." The door opened. Jacob Thornton stood in the frame, trail dust on his clothes and a rifle in his hand. He looked at the four of them sitting around his table, eating his food, and his expression didn't change. "You're up." "We're up," Clara stood. "Thank you for the food." "Thank you for the rescue," Josie added, her voice carefully neutral. "And the bed. And not murdering us in our sleep." Thornton's eyes moved to her. "You're welcome. I'm Josie, in case you forgot. That's Emma. And Lily. And you already know Clara, apparently, since she's the only one you talked to last night." "I remember who you are." "Good. So what happens now? You bought us fair and square. What do you want in return?" "Josie." Clara's voice carried a warning. "It's a fair question. Nobody spends $3,000 on strangers out of the goodness of their heart. So what's the price, Mr. Thornton? What do we owe you?" Thornton set his rifle against the wall, crossed to the stove, poured himself coffee from the pot Clara had made. "You don't owe me anything." "Bull." "Josie!" "No, Clara. I'm tired of not knowing where we stand." Josie stood, facing Thornton directly. "Yesterday we were about to be sold like livestock. Today we're eating breakfast in a stranger's house. I need to know what kind of situation we're in. Are we guests? Prisoners? Something else?" Thornton took a long drink of coffee, set down the cup. "You're guests. You can leave whenever you want. Walk out that door right now if it suits you." He met Josie's eyes. "But if you do, Garrett will find you. He's got men all over this territory. Trackers, guns. You won't make it 100 miles before he drags you back. So we're prisoners. You're protected. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Yes." Thornton's voice hardened. "Prisoners don't get choices. You have choices. Stay or go. Work or don't. Trust me or don't. But understand this. While you're under my roof, nobody touches you. Nobody hurts you. Nobody sells you. That's not a transaction. That's a promise." Silence filled the kitchen. Lily's small voice broke it. "Why?" Thornton looked at her. Something shifted in his face. Something almost soft. "Because I couldn't save my own daughter. Maybe I can save someone else's sisters." He picked up his rifle, walked toward the door. "There's work to be done if you want to help. Stable needs mucking. Garden needs tending. Fences need mending. Or you can rest. Your choice." He was gone before anyone could respond. Josie let out a long breath. "Well, that was something." "He's telling the truth," Emma closed her sketchbook. "About his daughter. About all of it." "How do you know?" "Because I watched his eyes when he talked about her." Emma stood. "I'm going to find the garden." She walked out. Josie stared after her. When did she get brave? "She's always been brave." Clara started gathering dishes. "Just quiet about it." "What about you? What are you going to do?" Clara looked around the kitchen, at the house that wasn't hers, at the future that was completely uncertain. "I'm going to learn everything I can about this place, and about the man who brought us here." "You think he's dangerous?" "I think everyone's dangerous. The question is whether he's dangerous to us or for us." Josie nodded slowly. "I'll take the stable. Keep my eyes open." "Be careful." "Always am." Josie headed for the door, then stopped, turned back. "Clara, whatever happens next, we handle it together, right?" "Right. Together." Josie left. Clara stood alone in the kitchen, surrounded by the remnants of breakfast and the weight of everything she didn't know. Then she started cleaning, because that's what you did when the world fell apart. You found something useful to do with your hands, while your mind figured out the rest. She spent the morning exploring the house. Thornton Ridge was bigger than it looked from outside. The main floor had the kitchen, a sitting room with a stone fireplace, and a study with a locked door. Clara tried the handle twice. It didn't budge. Upstairs were 4 bedrooms. 3 were clearly unused, the beds made with military precision, the surfaces dust-free but impersonal. The 4th showed signs of life. A razor by the wash basin, books stacked on a nightstand, a photograph face down on the dresser. Clara didn't touch the photograph. It felt like trespassing. The basement held food stores, ammunition, and enough supplies to last through a siege. Clara counted everything. Made mental notes. Whoever Jacob Thornton was, he lived like a man expecting trouble. By midday, she'd mapped every room, every exit, every potential hiding spot. She knew where the weapons were kept. She knew which floorboards creaked. She knew the house better than she'd known her own home after 20 years of living there. She found Thornton at the corral, working with a horse that clearly didn't want to be worked with. The animal was beautiful, a black mare with wild eyes and a temper to match. She reared every time Thornton got close, her hooves slashing the air. Clara leaned against the fence and watched. Thornton didn't look at her, didn't acknowledge her presence, just kept circling the mare with patient, steady movements. "She's scared," Clara said. "She's angry." "Same thing sometimes." Thornton paused. The mare snorted, pawed the ground. "You know horses?" "Grew up on a farm. Horses were part of it." "Then you know this one's been hurt. Badly. By someone who was supposed to take care of her." Clara studied the mare, saw the faint scars on her flanks, the way she flinched when Thornton raised his hand, even slowly. She was beaten. Worse than beaten. Previous owner used spurs until she bled, whipped her when she didn't perform. By the time I got her, she wouldn't let anyone within 10 feet. "How long have you had her?" 6 months. Clara watched the mare pace, watched Thornton wait. "She's better now," she said. "Than she was." "Some. Still won't let me touch her. But she doesn't try to kill me anymore. That's progress." "How do you know she'll ever trust you?" Thornton finally looked at her. His gray eyes held something she couldn't quite read. "I don't. But I keep showing up anyway. Keep proving I'm not going to hurt her. Eventually, she'll decide for herself whether I'm worth trusting." Clara held his gaze. "Are we talking about the horse?" "We're talking about whatever you want to be talking about." A long moment passed. The mare snorted. Somewhere behind them, Josie was cursing at something in the stable. "I searched your house," Clara said. Thornton's expression didn't change. "I know." "You're not angry?" "Would being angry change anything?" "Most men would be." "I'm not most men." He turned back to the mare. "Did you find what you were looking for?" "I don't know what I'm looking for." "Then you probably didn't find it." Clara almost smiled. Almost. "Your study door is locked." "Yes." "What's in there?" "Private things." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one you're getting." Thornton's voice was calm, final. "You want to know who I am? Fine. Ask questions. I'll answer what I can." But some things stay mine, just like some things stay yours. What things stay mine? Whatever you don't want to tell me. Your past, your pain, your plans. He shrugged. I'm not going to dig. You shouldn't either. Clara considered this. It was fair. More than fair, actually. Can I ask about your daughter? Thornton went still. The mayor, sensing something, went still too. You can ask. What was her name? Annie. That's a beautiful name. She was a beautiful child. Thornton's voice was steady, but something underneath it trembled. Smart. Curious. Couldn't stop asking questions about everything. Used to follow me around the ranch, wanting to know how everything worked. How old was she? 8, when she died. And your wife? Martha. She was 32. Thornton's hand clenched on the rope he was holding. They died together, in a fire. Raiders hit our homestead while I was in town. By the time I got back, there was nothing left but ash. Clara's chest tightened. I'm sorry. Don't be. It was a long time ago. 18 years isn't that long. It's long enough. Thornton's jaw worked. Long enough to rebuild. Long enough to remember why I keep going. Why do you? He turned to face her fully. His eyes were gray as storm clouds and just as full of hidden lightning. Because giving up would mean they died for nothing, and I won't let that happen. Clara understood, more than she wanted to admit. Her parents had died 2 years ago. Her mother first, worn down by work and worry, and a body that just couldn't take any more. Her father, 3 months later, his heart giving out in the fields he'd worked his whole life. Clara had buried them both, had held her sisters while they cried, had taken over the farm and the responsibility and the crushing weight of keeping everyone alive. She knew what it meant to keep going when stopping felt easier. My parents died 2 years ago, she said. Both of them, within months of each other. Thornton nodded slowly. That's why you're so protective. That's why I have to be. You don't have to be anything. Not anymore. Not here. Clara shook her head. You don't understand. They're my responsibility. Josie, Emma, Lily. If something happens to them, it's my fault. No. Yes, I'm the oldest. I'm supposed to. You're supposed to be a sister, not a mother, not a soldier. Thornton's voice was firm. You want to protect them? Fine, that's natural. But you can't do it alone, and you can't sacrifice yourself in the process. Who said anything about sacrifice? Nobody had to. I can see it in your eyes. Thornton took a step closer. You're already calculating, planning, figuring out how to keep them safe no matter what it costs you. I know because I used to do the same thing. Used to? Before I realized that dying for someone isn't the same as living for them. The words hit Clara harder than she expected. She opened her mouth to respond, but the sound of hoofbeats cut her off. Both of them turned. A rider was approaching from the south, moving fast. Thornton's hand dropped to his gun. Get inside. What? Get your sisters. Get inside. Lock the doors. Who is it? I don't know. That's the problem. Clara didn't argue. She ran for the stable, found Josie elbow deep in horse muck, grabbed her arm. Inside, now. What's happening? Someone's coming. They found Emma in the garden, Lily sitting beside her in the shade. Clara gathered them all, herded them toward the house. What's wrong? Lily's voice was high with fear. Clara, what's wrong? Nothing. Probably nothing. Just being careful. They reached the porch just as the rider came into view. Not one of Garrett's men. Clara could see that immediately. This rider was older, weathered, sitting his horse with the ease of someone who'd spent 50 years in the saddle. Thornton stood in the yard, his hand still on his gun. "Thornton!" The rider pulled up, raising both hands to show they were empty. "Easy now. It's just me." Thornton relaxed, slightly. "Ezra, what brings you out?" The rider, Ezra, dismounted slowly. He was in his 60s, Clara guessed. Lean and tough, with a face like worn leather and eyes that missed nothing. "Trouble brings me out." Ezra glanced at the porch, at Clara and her sisters. "I see the rumors are true." "What rumors?" "That you bought 4 girls out of Silas Garrett's auction yesterday. That you shot one of his men doing it. That you rode out of Dusty Springs like the devil himself was chasing you." Thornton's jaw tightened. "Word travels fast." "Word always travels fast when it involves you and Garrett." Ezra tied his horse to the fence post. "Can we talk? In private?" Thornton looked at Clara, at her sisters. "Go inside. I'll be there soon." Clara hesitated. Every instinct screamed at her to stay, to listen, to know what was happening. But Thornton's eyes held a warning, not a threat, a warning. "Come on." She shepherded her sisters inside. "Let's give them space." They gathered in the kitchen. Josie immediately moved to the window. "I can't hear what they're saying." "That's probably the point. Don't you want to know?" "Of course I want to know, but he'll tell us if it's important." "Will he? We just met the man, Clara. We don't know anything about him." "We know he saved our lives." "We know he paid money for us. That's not the same as saving." Emma spoke from the corner. "He saved Lily. That was real." "Emma." "I watched him do it. He worked for hours. He didn't stop until she was breathing right again." Emma's voice was quiet but certain. "That wasn't about money. That was about caring." Josie fell silent. Lily curled up on a chair, her knees pulled to her chest. "I'm scared." Clara crossed to her, knelt down, took her hands. "I know, baby. I'm scared too." "You are?" "Of course. But being scared doesn't mean we give up. It means we're paying attention." "What if that man, Garrett, comes for us?" "Then we deal with it." "How?" Clara didn't have an answer. Not a real one. The door opened. Thornton stepped inside, Ezra behind him. Both men looked grim. "Girls," Thornton said, "this is Ezra Dawson. He owns the ranch east of here. He's a friend." Ezra tipped his hat. "Ladies?" "What's happening?" Clara stood. "What did you need to discuss privately?" Thornton and Ezra exchanged a look. "Tell them," Ezra said. "They deserve to know." Thornton's jaw worked. Then he nodded. "Garrett's putting a bounty on you. All 4 of you. $1,000 for information leading to your recovery." Clara's blood went cold. "Recovery? Like we're stolen property?" "That's how he's framing it. Says I took you illegally. Says he's got legal claim and I violated it." "That's a lie." "Doesn't matter. Enough money makes lies sound like truth." Thornton leaned against the doorframe. $1,000 is more than most men in this territory make in 2 years. There'll be bounty hunters coming from every direction. Josie's hand went to her hip, to the knife that was still there. "So we fight." "You don't fight bounty hunters, not if you want to live." "Then what do we do?" Thornton looked at Ezra. Ezra looked at Thornton. "We make a stand," Thornton said. "Here, At Thornton Ridge, we fortify, we prepare, and when they come, we make it clear that taking you isn't worth the cost. That's your plan? Wait for them to attack? No. We also spread the word about what really happened, about what Garrett was doing in that saloon, about the auction, about the fact that he was selling children. Thornton's voice hardened. Public opinion won't stop bullets, but it might slow some of them down. Ezra stepped forward. I've already sent word to Tom Harker. He is to be sheriff before Garrett bought the current one. He's gathering men, good men, folks who are tired of Garrett running this territory like his personal kingdom. How many men? Clara asked. 12, maybe more. Enough to make a difference. Clara processed this. An army forming to protect them. Strangers willing to risk their lives for 4 girls they'd never met. Why would they do that? Why would any of them care about us? Ezra's weathered face softened. Because what Garrett did was wrong. Everyone knows it. They've just been too scared to say so. He looked at Thornton. Until now. Until someone finally stood up. Thornton said nothing, but something flickered in his gray eyes. Something that might have been hope. When will they come? Clara asked. The bounty hunters. Could be days, could be weeks. Thornton pushed off from the doorframe. Which means we've got time to prepare, but not much. What do you need us to do? Thornton looked at her sisters. Learn to shoot, all of you. Learn this land like the back of your hand. Learn where to hide, how to run, when to fight. He paused. And learn to trust me, because when the bullets start flying, trust is the only thing that's going to keep you alive. Clara met his eyes, held them. Trust goes both ways. I know. Then tell us the truth. About everything. No more locked doors. No more secrets. Thornton was silent for a long moment. Then he reached into his pocket, pulled out a key. The study, he said. Come with me, all of you. It's time you saw what I've been working on. He walked out of the kitchen. Clara followed. Her sisters followed her. They climbed the stairs and stopped outside the locked door Clara had tried earlier that morning. Thornton fit the key in the lock, turned it. The door swung open. Inside was an office, a desk covered in papers, maps pinned to every wall, notes and photographs and documents everywhere Clara looked. What is all this? Josie breathed. Thornton stepped inside, lit a lamp. The light threw shadows across the walls, across the sprawl of information. This, he said quietly, is every piece of evidence I've collected against Silas Garrett over the past 5 years. Every crime, every victim, every connection. Clara moved closer, looked at the maps, the names, the dates. You've been investigating him. I've been building a case, one that can't be ignored, one that will put him away for good. Why? Thornton's hand drifted to a photograph on the wall. A woman with dark hair. A girl with her father's eyes. Because 18 years ago, the men who killed my family worked for a man just like Garrett. Different name, different territory, same evil. He turned to face them. I spent 2 years hunting those men down. When I was done, I realized killing wasn't enough. The men at the top just hired more guns and kept going. So you're trying to take down the whole operation. I'm trying to make sure no one else loses what I lost. And that means going after the root, not just the branches. Clara stared at the evidence. Years of work, years of patience. Garrett doesn't know about this? If he did, I'd be dead already. And now we've made you a target. Clara's voice was heavy. By coming here, we've put everything you've built at risk. Thornton shook his head. You didn't do anything. Garrett did. I just finally had a reason to stop waiting. A reason? 4 reasons. He looked at each of them in turn. 4 girls who deserved better than what that saloon was going to give them. 4 lives worth risking everything for. Lily stepped forward, small and pale and still shaky from yesterday's fever. You really mean that? We're worth risking your life? Thornton knelt so he was at her eye level. When I saw you in that saloon, saw what they were about to do, I thought about Annie. About what I would have wanted someone to do if she'd been in your place. His voice roughened. So yes, Lily, you're worth it. All of you are. Lily threw her arms around his neck. Thornton froze. For a moment, he looked like he'd forgotten what human contact felt like. Then, slowly, his arms came up. He hugged her back. Clara watched her baby sister embrace the scarred stranger who'd bought them out of hell. Watched Emma crying silently in the doorway. Watched Josie's hard expression finally crack. And she made a decision. Tell us everything, she said. Everything you know about Garrett. Everything you've learned. We're not just going to hide here and wait for him to come. We're going to help you take him down. Thornton looked up, met her eyes. You sure about that? Once you're in, there's no going back. We've been in since the moment he put us on that auction block. Clara's voice was steel. Now we're going to make him regret it. Thornton stood. Lily still clung to him, and he let her. All right, then. He gestured to the maps, the documents, the years of gathered evidence. Let's get to work. The days that followed blurred together in a rhythm of preparation and watchfulness. Clara learned to shoot first. Not because she didn't already know how, but because Thornton's methods were different, precise, deadly in a way her father's gentle instruction had never been. You're aiming for the center, Thornton said on the 3rd morning. Stop. Clara lowered her rifle. Center mass, that's what my father taught me. Your father taught you to hunt. I'm teaching you to survive. Thornton moved behind her, adjusted her stance with impersonal efficiency. Hunting means 1 shot, 1 kill, clean, quick. Fighting means chaos, means men shooting back, means you might only get 1 chance before someone takes yours. So, where do I aim? Depends on what you want. I want to stop them. Stop or kill? Clara hesitated. The question sat heavy in her chest. I don't know. Figure it out before the bullets start flying. Hesitation gets people dead. Thornton stepped back. Again. And this time, picture someone you hate holding that rifle pointed at Lily. Clara raised the weapon, sighted down the barrel. She thought about Garrett, about the way he'd smiled while announcing the opening bid for her baby sister, about the men in that saloon, measuring her sisters like livestock. She fired. The bullet punched through the target's head. Better, Thornton said. Again. Josie took to shooting like she'd been born with a gun in her hand. Within 2 days, she was hitting targets at distances that made even Thornton raise an eyebrow. You've done this before, he said. Papa taught me. Josie reloaded with practiced ease. Said a girl alone on the frontier needed to know how to defend herself. He was right. He was paranoid. Turns out paranoid was smart. Emma struggled more. Her hands shook every time she held a weapon. Her shots went wide more often than not. After the 5th missed target in a row, she threw the rifle down and walked away. Clara found her in the garden an hour later, her hands buried in soil, tears streaming down her face. I can't do it. Emma's voice was raw. I try to aim, and all I see is blood. All I think about is killing someone, taking a life. I can't. Clara knelt beside her. You don't have to. But Thornton said we need to be ready. There's more than one way to be ready. Emma looked up. Like what? Like this. Clara gestured at the garden. At the rows of vegetables Emma had coaxed from the dry soil in just a few days. Food is survival too. Medicine. Knowledge. Not everyone has to hold a gun. Josie thinks I'm weak. Josie thinks anyone who isn't ready to fight is weak. She's wrong. Clara took her sister's dirt-stained hands. You're the one who kept us human during the worst of it. When Mama died, when Papa followed, when Uncle Warren drank himself into debt. You were the one who remembered birthdays, who picked wildflowers, who kept drawing even when there was nothing beautiful left to draw. Emma's tears fell faster. That's not strength. It's the only strength that matters. Clara pulled her into a hug. We need fighters, but we also need people worth fighting for. That's you, Emma. That's always been you. They stayed like that until Emma's tears dried, until the sun started its descent toward the horizon, until Lily's voice called them for dinner. Lily was the surprise. Too young to handle a rifle, too weak still from the fever that had nearly killed her, she found her own way to contribute. She watched. Everything, every one, every detail that others missed. Mr. Thornton limps when he thinks no one's looking, she told Clara on the fourth night. His left leg. And he touches that scar on his face when he's thinking hard about something. And his hands shake sometimes, just a little, when he looks at that photograph in his bedroom. Clara stared at her.
How do you know about the photograph?
I explored, like you did, Lily shrugged. I saw his room. I didn't touch anything, but I saw. There's a picture of a woman and a little girl. He turned it face down, but I saw it before he did. You shouldn't spy on people. I'm not spying, I'm paying attention. Lily's blue eyes were too old for her 12 years. That's different. Clara couldn't argue. She'd taught Lily that skill herself, back when their uncle's moods could shift from weepy to violent without warning. Back when knowing what was coming meant the difference between safety and bruises. What else have you noticed? Lily thought for a moment. Ezra Dawson comes every day now. He and Mr. Thornton talk in the study with the door closed. I can't hear what they say, but when they come out, Mr. Thornton looks worried, and Mr. Dawson looks scared. Scared of what? I don't know, but whatever it is, it's getting closer. That night, Clara waited until her sisters were asleep before making her way downstairs. Thornton sat at the kitchen table, a lamp burning low, papers spread before him. He didn't look up when she entered. You should be resting. So should you. Clara pulled out a chair, sat across from him. What's happening? What aren't you telling us? Thornton's jaw tightened. For a moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he pushed a piece of paper across the table. A wanted poster, 4 faces sketched in rough detail. Clara recognized herself, her sisters. Wanted for theft and conspiracy, it read. $1,000 reward each. Return to Silas Garrett for payment. Theft, Clara said flatly. We're thieves now. According to Garrett, you stole yourselves. Property fleeing its rightful owner. That's insane. That's the law in territories where men like Garrett write it. Thornton took the poster back. These went up in every town within 100 miles. Ezra's been tearing them down where he can, but they keep appearing. So everyone in the territory is looking for us? Everyone who wants easy money, which is most people. Clara absorbed this. $4,000 total. A fortune in a land where most folks scraped by on pennies. What do we do? We do what we've been doing. We prepare. We wait. And we hope Tom Harker gets here with reinforcements before the bounty hunters do. Hope isn't a strategy. No, but sometimes it's all we've got. Clara studied his face in the lamplight. The scar, the broken nose, the eyes that held too much history. Tell me about her, she said quietly. Your wife." Thornton went still. "Why?" "Because we're about to risk our lives together. Because I want to know who you were before all this." She paused. "Because you know everything about us, and we know almost nothing about you." A long silence stretched between them. Then Thornton spoke. Martha was a schoolteacher, came west from St. Louis to bring education to frontier children. Everyone said she was crazy, that a woman like her wouldn't last a month. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. She lasted 15 years, taught half the territory to read. "How did you meet?" "She needed someone to build a schoolhouse. I needed a reason to stop running from my past." Thornton's hands curled around his coffee cup. "We built the school together, got married in it, had Annie in the room where Martha talked mathematics." Annie. Clara remembered the name from before. "Your daughter." "My everything." Thornton's voice roughened. "She had Martha's eyes and my stubbornness. Used to follow me around asking 100 questions about every horse, every fence post, every cloud in the sky." "What happened the day they died?" Thornton was quiet for so long, Clara thought he wouldn't answer. "I went to town for lumber, was going to build an addition to the house, a library for Martha's books." His hands began to shake, just slightly. "I told them I'd be back by supper, kissed Annie goodbye, told Martha I loved her." He stopped, swallowed hard. "Raiders came at noon. Men I'd turned away from buying horses the week before. They were angry, drunk, looking to make a statement." His voice dropped to barely a whisper. "They made one." Clara's chest ached. "It wasn't your fault." "I know." "Do you?" Thornton looked at her, really looked, and in his gray eyes she saw 18 years of guilt that no amount of knowing could erase. "I know it wasn't my fault. That doesn't mean I don't blame myself." He set down his cup. "I've made peace with what happened, as much as anyone can. But I'll never stop wishing I'd been there, that I died with them instead of spending 18 years living without them." "Is that why you saved us? To die?" "I saved you to live." Thornton's voice hardened. "To prove that all those years meant something. That I could protect someone, even if I couldn't protect them." Clara reached across the table, touched his hand. He flinched, like he'd forgotten what human contact felt like. "You're not dying for us," she said. "You hear me? We're going to survive this. All of us. Together." Thornton looked at her hand on his, at her face. "You can't promise that." "I can promise to try. That's all any of us can do." Something shifted in his expression. Something that might have been hope, buried so deep he probably didn't recognize it anymore. "You remind me of her," he said quietly. "Martha. The way you hold your family together. The way you refuse to break. Is that a good thing?" "It's the best thing." They sat in silence after that, two people carrying weights too heavy for one, finding, for just a moment, that the burden was lighter, shared. The attack came on the 7th day. Clara was in the garden with Emma when she heard it. Hoofbeats, dozens of them, coming fast from the south. She was on her feet before the sound fully registered. "Inside, now!" Emma dropped her trowel. "What's happening?" "They're here." They ran. Josie met them at the door, rifle already in hand. "I count 12 riders, maybe more." "Where's Lily?" "Upstairs. I told her to hide." "Where's Thornton?" "Don't know. He rode out early to check the fence line." Clara's blood went cold. Thornton was gone. They were alone. "Close the shutters, bar the doors, get to the positions he showed us." They moved fast, days of preparation kicking in despite the fear. Clara took the front window. Josie took the back. Emma positioned herself at the stairs with the smallest rifle, shaking but present. The riders pulled up outside the stone wall. Clara peered through a gap in the shutters. Garrett wasn't with them. But the man leading the group was almost as bad. Big, bearded, wearing a badge that looked like it had been bought, not earned. "You in the house," his voice boomed across the yard. "This is Deputy Sheriff Cole Turner. You're harboring fugitives. Send them out peaceful-like, and no one gets hurt." Clara's hands tightened on her rifle. "They're not fugitives," she shouted back. "They're people, free people." "That ain't what the law says, ma'am. I got warrants here, signed by Judge Patterson himself." "Patterson is Garrett's man. Everyone knows it." "Don't matter whose man he is. The law's the law." Turner shifted in his saddle. "Now I'm going to give you to the count of 10 to send those girls out. After that, we come in and take them." Clara looked at Josie, at Emma. "What do we do?" Emma whispered. "We hold," Clara said. "We hold until Thornton gets back." "And if he doesn't?" Clara didn't answer. Couldn't. 1, Turner began counting. Clara's finger found the trigger. 2. She thought about Lily upstairs, about the life her baby sister hadn't gotten to live yet. 3. About her parents, dead in the ground, trusting her to protect their children. 4. About Martha and Annie, burned alive while the man who loved them was buying lumber for a library. 5. About Jacob Thornton, somewhere out there, not knowing that everything he'd built was about to fall apart. 6. Clara made a decision. 7. She stood up, opened the shutter. 8. Raised her rifle. 9. And fired. The shot took Turner's hat clean off his head. He yelped and ducked, his horse rearing. "Next one goes through your skull," Clara shouted. "You want those girls? Come get 'em." For a moment, nobody moved. Then Turner's face twisted with rage. "You stupid little—" He drew his pistol. "Boys, take them." The riders charged. Clara fired again, hit one man's shoulder. He screamed and fell from his saddle. Josie's rifle cracked from the back of the house. Another scream. The riders reached the wall, started climbing. Clara reloaded, fired, reloaded again. They kept coming. A window shattered somewhere behind her. Men's voices filled the house. "Clara!" Josie's scream. "They're inside!" Clara ran toward the sound, found Josie grappling with a man twice her size. The knife was in Josie's hand now, slashing at his arms, his face. Clara clubbed him with a rifle butt. He went down. Another man appeared in the doorway. Clara shot him in the leg. The house had become chaos. Smoke, screams, the crash of breaking furniture. "Emma!" Clara shouted. "Lily!" No answer. She ran for the stairs. A man blocked her path. Big, grinning. "Well now," he said. "Which one are you?" "Let me guess. You're the oldest. The one worth the most." Clara raised her rifle. It was empty. She hadn't had time to reload. The man laughed. "Nice try, sweetheart." He lunged. Clara swung the rifle like a club. It connected with his head. He staggered but didn't fall. His fist caught her temple. Stars exploded across her vision. She hit the floor hard. The man stood over her, breathing heavy. "You're gonna pay for that. Before I turn you in, you're gonna pay." He reached for her. A gunshot exploded through the room. The man jerked, looked down at the hole in his chest, looked up with confusion. Then he crumpled. Jacob Thornton stood in the doorway, smoke curling from his pistol. "Get up," he said. "We're not done yet." Clara scrambled to her feet. "How did you—" "Heard the shooting. Rode hard." Thornton was already moving, checking corners, his gun sweeping. "Where are your sisters?" "I don't know. We got separated." "Find them. I'll handle the rest." He disappeared into the chaos. Clara ran upstairs. "Lily! Lily, where are you?" A small voice from the closet in Thornton's bedroom.
Clara?
Clara threw open the door. Lily huddled inside, her arms wrapped around her knees, her face streaked with tears.
It's okay. It's okay, baby. I'm here. I heard shooting. I heard screaming.
I thought, I know, but we're okay. We're going to be okay. Emma, where's Emma? Clara's heart stopped. She didn't know. Stay here, she said. Don't move. Don't open this door for anyone but me or Mr. Thornton. Understand? Lily nodded, her eyes huge. Clara closed the closet door and ran back downstairs. The fighting had moved outside. She could hear gunshots in the yard, shouts, the whinny of frightened horses. She found Josie in the kitchen, bleeding from a cut on her forehead, standing over two unconscious men. Emma, Clara gasped. Have you seen Emma? Josie's face went white. They searched together, room by room, calling her name. They found her in the study. She was pressed against the wall, a man's hand around her throat, his pistol against her temple. Drop the guns, he said calmly, both of you, or I paint the wall with her brains. Clara's rifle clattered to the floor. Josie's followed. The man smiled. Smart girls. Now, here's what's going to happen. You're going to walk out that door, nice and quiet. You're going to get on the horses waiting outside, and you're going to ride back to Dusty Springs where you belong. Let her go, Clara said. Take me instead. I'm worth more. You're all worth the same to me. Dead or alive, the bounty pays. His grip tightened on Emma's throat. But alive is easier, so let's do this the easy way. Emma's eyes met Clara's. In them, Clara saw fear, and something else. Determination. Emma's hand moved, slowly, toward the knife on Thornton's desk. Don't even think about it, the man growled. He'd seen the movement. Emma froze. Smart. Now move, all of you, toward the door. Clara took a step. Emma took a breath. And then everything happened at once. Emma grabbed the knife and plunged it into the man's arm. He howled and released her, his gun swinging toward her face. Clara dove for her fallen rifle. Josie tackled the man from behind. The gun went off. The bullet buried itself in the ceiling. Clara got her hands on the rifle, swung it up. The man threw Josie off, raised his pistol again. Clara fired. The shot caught him in the chest. He stumbled backward, hit the wall, slid down it, leaving a red smear on the wood. His eyes found Clara's, held them for one endless moment. Then the light went out of them. Clara stood there, the rifle still raised, her whole body shaking. She'd killed a man. She'd taken a human life. Clara. Emma's voice, rough and scared. Clara, you saved me. Clara lowered the rifle, looked at her hands. They were trembling so badly she could barely keep her grip. I killed him. You saved me, Emma repeated. She crossed the room, wrapped her arms around Clara. You saved my life. Josie joined them. The three sisters held each other in the blood-stained study while the sounds of fighting faded outside. When they finally pulled apart, Thornton was standing in the doorway. His clothes were torn, his face was bloody, but he was alive. It's over, he said. They're retreating. Clara looked at the dead man on the floor, at her sisters, at the ranch that had become a battlefield. Is anyone else hurt? Ezra took a bullet to the shoulder. He'll live. 3 of their men dead, 5 more wounded. Thornton's eyes moved to the body, to the rifle in Clara's hands. You did what you had to do. I know. It doesn't feel like that right now. No. Clara's voice cracked. It doesn't. Thornton crossed the room, took the rifle from her hands, set it aside. Then he did something he'd never done before. He pulled her into his arms. Clara broke. All the fear, all the rage, all the guilt she'd been holding poured out in great heaving sobs. She cried into his chest while he held her, his hands stroking her hair, his voice murmuring words she couldn't hear but somehow understood. "You're okay," he said. "You're alive. Your sisters are alive. That's what matters. I killed him. You protected your family. There's no shame in that." Clara pulled back, looked up at him. His gray eyes were soft now, human. "How do you live with it?" she whispered. "The taking of life." Thornton was quiet for a moment. "You don't live with it. You carry it. Every life you take becomes part of you, and you learn to walk with that weight." He cupped her face in his rough hands. "But you don't carry it alone. Not anymore." Clara closed her eyes. When she opened them, her sisters were there. Josie, bleeding and fierce. Emma, shaking but standing. Lily, who'd somehow crept downstairs without anyone noticing. Her family. Whole. Alive. Because she'd been willing to do the unthinkable. "What happens now?" Josie asked. Thornton released Clara but stayed close. Close enough that she could feel his warmth. "Now we regroup. Tend the wounded. Bury the dead." His jaw hardened. "And then we take the fight to Garrett." Clara straightened, wiped her eyes. "When?" "Soon. Before he can gather more men. Before he knows we're coming." Clara looked at her sisters, at the man who'd become something more than a stranger. "Then let's get ready," she said. "Because this ends. One way or another. This ends." They buried 2 of Garrett's men at dawn, not because they deserved it, because leaving bodies to rot brought disease and drew scavengers. Thornton dug the graves himself, while Ezra sat on the porch with his shoulder bandaged, watching with eyes that had seen too many burials. Clara stood at the edge of the yard, her sisters clustered around her, and tried to feel something other than numb. "You shouldn't watch this," Josie said quietly. "I killed one of them. The least I can do is see him put in the ground." "Clara, don't." Clara's voice came out harder than she intended. "Don't tell me it was necessary. Don't tell me I did the right thing. I know all that. It doesn't help." Josie fell silent. Emma slipped her hand into Clara's, said nothing, just held on. Lily pressed against Clara's other side, her small body warm and alive and breathing. They stood together as Thornton finished his grim work, as he covered the graves without ceremony or prayer, as the sun rose higher and the desert heat began its daily punishment. When it was done, Thornton walked to where they stood. His clothes were covered in dirt, his face was haggard, but his eyes found Clara's with something like understanding. "First kill's always the hardest." "Does it get easier?" "No. You just get better at carrying it." He walked past them into the house. Clara watched him go and felt something shift in her chest, something that had been locked tight for years. She followed him inside. He was at the kitchen sink, washing the grave dirt from his hands. His movements were slow, mechanical, the movements of a man who'd done this too many times. "Jacob." He paused. It was the first time she'd used his given name. "I need to know something." Clara moved closer. "And I need you to tell me the truth." "Ask." "When you look at me, what do you see?" Thornton turned. Water dripped from his hands onto the floor. "What do you mean?" "You said I remind you of your wife. You saved us because you couldn't save them. You've been protecting us like we're replacements for what you lost." Clara held his gaze. "So I need to know, when you look at me, do you see Clara Brennan? Or do you see a ghost?" The question hung between them like a blade. Thornton was silent for a long moment. His jaw worked. his hands curled into fists at his sides. "At first," he said slowly, "I saw Martha. The way you hold your family together. The way you refuse to break no matter how hard the world pushes." He took a breath. "But that was at first. And now?" "Now I see you." His voice roughened. "Clara Brennan. 24 years old, stronger than anyone has a right to be, carrying a weight that would crush most men, and making it look easy." He stepped closer, close enough that Clara could see the individual threads of silver in his dark hair. "I see a woman who shot a man to save her sister, and is tearing herself apart over it, who lost her parents and raised 3 girls on nothing but stubbornness and love, who walked into a saloon full of men who wanted to buy her and didn't flinch." His hand came up, touched her face, gentle. "I see someone I want to protect, not because she reminds me of someone I lost, because she's someone I don't want to lose." Clara's breath caught. "Jacob." "You don't have to say anything." He dropped his hand, stepped back. "I know this isn't the time. I know we've got a war to fight and your sisters to protect, and 100 reasons why this is a bad idea. It's a terrible idea." "I know." "You're too old for me." "Probably." "We've known each other less than 2 weeks." "I know. And I killed a man last night. I'm not exactly in the best frame of mind for romance." Thornton almost smiled. "That's fair." Clara stared at him, this scarred, broken man who'd bought them out of hell, who'd fought for them, bled for them, held her while she cried over a life she'd taken. "Ask me again," she said quietly. "What?" "When this is over. When Garrett's finished, and my sisters are safe, and we're not running for our lives." She took a breath. "Ask me again. What you see when you look at me." Something flickered in his gray eyes, something that looked dangerously like hope. "And if I ask?" "Then I'll tell you what I see when I look at you." The moment stretched between them, fragile, precious. Then Ezra's voice shattered it. "Thornton, riders coming!" They moved. Clara grabbed her rifle from where she'd left it by the door. Thornton was already outside, his pistol drawn, his body positioned between the approaching riders and the house. But these weren't enemies. Tom Harker rode at the head of a column of men, 15, maybe 20, hard-faced ranchers and farmers, carrying rifles and wearing expressions of grim determination. "Thornton!" Harker pulled up, his old sheriff's badge glinting on his chest. "Heard you had some trouble last night." "News travels fast." "News of Silas Garrett always travels fast." Harker looked at the fresh graves, at the bullet holes in the stone walls, at Clara, standing in the doorway with a rifle in her hands. "Looks like you held." "Barely." "Well," Harker swung down from his saddle, "you won't have to hold alone anymore." The men dismounted, began setting up camp around the ranch. Some Clara recognized from Ezra's descriptions. The McAllister brothers, twins who'd lost their farm to Garrett's loan sharking. Old Pete Dawson, Ezra's father, 80 years old and still meaner than a rattlesnake. Tom Henderson, who'd run cattle before Garrett's men started rustling his herds. They all had stories. They all had reasons to hate Silas Garrett. And now they were here, ready to fight. Harker spread a map on Thornton's kitchen table that evening. The sisters gathered around, along with Ezra and the leaders of the assembled men. "Garrett's holed up in Dusty Springs," Harker said. "Got maybe 30 men with him. Hired guns, most of them. The kind who'll fight for money, but not for blood." 30 men, Josie leaned over the map. "We've got, what, 25? 23 able-bodied. Those aren't good odds." "No, But we've got something they don't. What's that? Harker looked around the table. Something worth dying for. Clara spoke up.
What about the townspeople, the ones who aren't with Garrett?
Scared, mostly. Garrett's had his boot on their necks for years. They want to fight, but they're afraid of what happens if they lose.
Then we show them they don't have to be afraid.
Clara stepped forward. We show them that Garrett can be beaten, that standing up to him doesn't mean dying. Thornton shook his head. That's a nice thought, but how do you propose we do it? We don't just attack. We expose him. Clara pulled the map closer. You've spent 5 years collecting evidence against Garrett. Crimes, victims, connections. What if we make that public? What if everyone in the territory knows exactly what kind of man he is? Most folks already know. Knowing and seeing are different things. Clara looked at Emma. You can draw, right? Better than anyone I know. Emma blinked. What does that have to do with anything? Those sketches you make, the ones that capture people so perfectly you can almost hear them breathe. Clara's mind was racing now. What if we made posters? Not wanted posters, truth posters. Pictures of Garrett's victims, names, dates, crimes. Thornton's eyes narrowed. You want to wage a war of information. I want to give people a reason to fight, something more than anger, something more than fear. Clara's voice strengthened. Garrett's power comes from everyone being too scared to stand together. We break that fear, we break him. The room was silent. Then Harker laughed, a short, surprised sound. Damn, you've got your father's mind for strategy, girl. You knew my father? Fought alongside him in the war. Best tactical thinker I ever met. Harker's weathered face softened. He'd be proud of you. Clara's throat tightened. Thank you. Thornton was studying her with an expression she couldn't quite read. It could work, he said slowly. Hit Garrett's reputation before we hit his men. Make the hired guns question whether the money's worth it. It's risky, Ezra pointed out. We'd need to get close to town. Spread those posters without getting caught. I can do it, Josie stepped forward. I'm fast. I know how to stay hidden. And I've got more reason than anyone to want Garrett exposed. No. Clara's response was immediate. Absolutely not. Clara, you're not going into that town alone. It's too dangerous. Then come with me. Josie met her sister's eyes. Both of us. Together. Clara wanted to refuse. Every protective instinct screamed at her to keep Josie safe, to keep all her sisters locked away where nothing could touch them. But Josie wasn't a child anymore. She was 18, old enough to make her own choices, old enough to fight for her own freedom. Emma and Lily stay here, Clara said finally, with Thornton and the others. Agreed. Clara looked at Thornton. Can you protect them, if something goes wrong? With my life. She believed him. Then we go tonight, while it's dark. We spread the posters and we get out before anyone knows we're there. Josie grinned. It was the first real smile Clara had seen on her sister's face in days. Finally, some action. They left at midnight. Clara and Josie rode together, saddlebags stuffed with the posters Emma had spent hours creating. Detailed sketches of Garrett's victims, lists of his crimes, evidence that had been locked in Thornton's study for 5 years. The ride to Dusty Springs took 3 hours. They approached from the north, where the buildings thinned out and the shadows grew thick. There, Josie pointed to the back of the general store. We start there and work our way in. They tied their horses in a draw 1/2 mile from town, continued on foot. The streets were empty. Even Garrett's men had to sleep sometime. Clara took one side of the street, Josie took the other. They moved in silence, nailing posters to walls, sliding them under doors, leaving them in every place where people would see them come morning. They were halfway done when Clara heard the voice. "Well, well, look what wandered into my web." She spun. Silas Garrett stood in the doorway of the Silver Dollar Saloon. He was fully dressed, despite the hour. His smile was the same one he'd worn at the auction. Cold, predatory, certain. "Miss Brennan, I had a feeling you'd show up eventually." His eyes moved to the poster in her hand. "What's this? Propaganda?" Clara's hand dropped to her gun. "I wouldn't." Garrett's voice hardened. 3 men stepped out of the shadows behind him, rifles raised. "You're fast, I'm sure, but not that fast." Josie appeared at Clara's side, her knife already drawn. "Let us go, Garrett. You've got bigger problems than 2 girls with papers." "Do I?" Garrett descended the saloon steps slowly. "What I see is the return on my investment. Finally." "We're not your property." "The law says otherwise." "Your law. You're bought judges and corrupt sheriffs." Clara's voice didn't waver. "That's over. By morning, everyone in this territory will know exactly what you are." Garrett glanced at the posters on the wall beside him. His smile flickered. "Interesting." He tore one down, studied it. "Very detailed. Thornton's work?" "Justice's work." "Justice," Garrett laughed. "There's no justice in the territories, Miss Brennan. There's only power, and I have more of it than you ever will." "Power doesn't last." "Long enough." Garrett nodded to his men. "Take them." The men advanced. Clara drew her pistol. Josie raised her knife. And then the night exploded. Gunfire erupted from the rooftops. One of Garrett's men went down screaming. Another dove for cover. Clara grabbed Josie's arm. "Run!" They ran. More shots behind them. Shouts. The thunder of hooves. They reached their horses just as riders appeared on the street. Not Garrett's men. Thornton, Harker, a dozen others. "Move!" Thornton shouted. "We've got them pinned!" Clara swung into her saddle. Josie did the same. They rode. Behind them, Dusty Springs erupted into chaos. Gunfire, flames, the sounds of Garrett's empire beginning to crumble. They didn't stop until they reached Thornton Ridge. Clara dismounted on shaky legs. Josie was breathing hard beside her. "What happened?" Clara gasped. "How did you know?" Thornton swung down from his horse. His face was grim. "Lily." "What?" "She watched you leave. Followed you halfway to town before I caught her." Thornton's jaw tightened. "She said she had a bad feeling, that something was wrong." "Lily did that?" "Your sister's got instincts. Good ones." Thornton moved closer. "She probably saved your lives." Clara looked toward the house. Lily stood on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, her small face pale in the moonlight. Clara ran to her, swept her into her arms. "You could have been hurt. You could have been killed." "I know." Lily's voice was muffled against Clara's shoulder. "But I couldn't let you die. Not when I could do something." Clara held her tighter. This brave, foolish, wonderful child who'd nearly gotten herself killed to save her sisters. "Don't ever do that again." "I won't promise that." "Lily." "You wouldn't promise either, if it was me out there." Lily pulled back, met Clara's eyes. "You'd have done exactly what I did, because that's what family does." Clara had no response to that, because Lily was right. Thornton approached them. "We hit Garrett hard tonight, killed 4 of his men, wounded more. But he got away." "So it's not over?" "No, but he's weakened, scared, and by morning, those posters will be everywhere." Thornton looked at the eastern horizon, where the first hints of dawn were beginning to show. "The tide's turning." "What happens next?" "We finish it." Thornton's voice hardened. Tomorrow, we ride into Dusty Springs with every man we've got. We take the fight to Garrett directly.
And if we lose?
We won't.
But if we do?
Thornton was quiet for a moment. Then he reached out, took Clara's hand. Then we'll have died trying. And that's better than living on our knees. Clara looked at her sisters. Josie, bloody and fierce. Emma, waiting in the doorway with fear and hope battling on her face. Lily, small and brave and refusing to be left behind. She looked at Thornton, at this man who'd given them everything. Together, she said. We do this together. Together. They stood on the porch as dawn broke over Thornton Ridge, as the world turned from black to gray to gold. Tomorrow, everything would change. But tonight, they were alive. They were together, and they were ready. Clara leaned into Thornton's shoulder, and he let her. Josie sat on the steps, cleaning her knife. Emma had her sketchbook out, capturing the sunrise. Lily curled up beside Clara, already half asleep despite everything that had happened. This was her family, blood and chosen both, and she would burn the whole territory down before she let anyone take them from her. They rode into Dusty Springs at noon, 23 men and 2 women, rifles across their saddles, eyes hard with purpose. Clara sat her horse beside Thornton at the head of the column. Her sisters had stayed at the ranch despite Josie's furious protests. This fight wasn't theirs to finish. Clara had made that clear. You protect Emma and Lily, she'd told Josie before leaving. No matter what happens, you keep them safe. Josie had wanted to argue. Clara could see it in every line of her body. But something in Clara's face had stopped her. Come back, Josie had said instead. Promise me you'll come back. I promise. Now, riding down the main street of the town that had nearly destroyed them, Clara wondered if she could keep that promise. Dusty Springs looked different in daylight. The buildings were the same sun-bleached wood. The streets were the same packed dirt. But something had changed. People were watching. Not hiding. Watching. They stood in doorways and leaned out of windows. They gathered on porches and clustered at corners. Men and women and children, all staring at the column of riders with expressions that held something Clara hadn't expected. Hope. The posters had done their work. She could see them everywhere, nailed to walls, pasted on windows, lying in the street where the wind had scattered them. Emma's sketches, Thornton's evidence, 5 years of secrets exposed to the harsh light of day. They're not running, Harker said quietly. No, Thornton's voice was grim. They're waiting to see who wins. The Silver Dollar Saloon stood at the end of the street. Its doors were closed. Its windows were shuttered. But Clara could feel the eyes watching from inside. Garrett was there. She knew it in her bones. Thornton raised his hand. The column stopped. Silence fell over the street. Heavy. Expectant. Silas Garrett, Thornton's voice carried across the town. This ends today. Come out and face justice, or we'll come in and drag you out. Nothing. The seconds stretched. Then the saloon doors swung open. Garrett emerged slowly. He was still dressed in his fine gray suit, but it was rumpled now, stained. His dark hair was disheveled. His face was pale beneath its usual tan. Behind him came his men, not 30 anymore. Clara counted 15, maybe less. The posters had done more than expose him. They'd cost him half his army. Thornton! Garrett's voice was steady, but Clara could hear the strain beneath it. I should have killed you years ago. You should have done a lot of things differently. It's too late now. Is it? Garrett's eyes moved to Clara. You've caused me a great deal of trouble, Miss Brennan. You and your sisters. Good. Such fire. Garrett smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I can see why he's so taken with you. You remind him of his dead wife, don't you? That's the only reason a man like Thornton would risk everything for a woman like you." Clara felt Thornton tense beside her. "Don't," she said quietly. "He's trying to provoke you." "I know." "Then don't let him." Thornton's hands tightened on his reins, but he stayed still. Garrett's smile widened. "Smart girl. Smarter than I gave you credit for." He took a step forward. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to turn around and ride out of my town. All of you. And in exchange, I'll let you live." "No." "No?" Garrett raised an eyebrow. "You're outnumbered, Thornton. My men are behind walls. Yours are in the open. Do the math." "I've done the math." Thornton swung down from his horse. "Your men are scared. Mine aren't." "Scared?" Garrett laughed. "Of what?" "Of dying for a man who'd sell them out the moment it became convenient." Thornton walked forward, his boots raising small clouds of dust. "I've been watching you for 5 years, Garrett. I know every dirty deal you've made, every man you've betrayed, every promise you've broken." He stopped 10 feet from Garrett. "Your men know it too. They've seen the posters. They know that when this is over, the ones who stood with you will hang right alongside you." Murmurs from the saloon. Uneasy shifting. Garrett's smile flickered. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Thornton raised his voice. "Any man who lays down his weapon and walks away right now gets to keep breathing. No questions asked. No charges filed. You have my word." Silence. Then one of Garrett's men stepped out of the saloon. He set his rifle on the ground, raised his hands. "I'm done," he said. "This ain't worth dying for." Another followed. Then another. Within moments, half of Garrett's remaining force had abandoned him. They walked past Thornton's line with their heads down, disappearing into the town's alleys and side streets. Garrett stood alone, except for a handful of loyal men. His face had gone white with rage. "Cowards!" he spat. "All of you!" "They're survivors," Clara said. She dismounted too, moving to stand beside Thornton. "They know when to cut their losses." "And you don't?" "I'm not the one who's losing." Garrett's hand moved toward his gun. Thornton's drew faster. The shot echoed across the silent street. Garrett staggered backward, clutching his shoulder. His pistol clattered to the ground. "Don't," Thornton said quietly. "It's over." For a moment, Clara thought Garrett would surrender. His face contorted with pain. His remaining men had frozen, their hands hovering over their weapons, but not drawing. Then Garrett laughed. "You think this ends me?" Blood seeped between his fingers. "I've got connections from here to Denver. Judges, politicians, men who owe me favors. You might take this town, but you'll never." "Yes, we will." A new voice, female, strong. Clara turned. A woman had emerged from the crowd of townspeople. Middle-aged, gray-streaked hair pulled back in a severe bun. Eyes that held steel. "Judge Margaret Ashford," Thornton said. There was surprise in his voice, and something else, respect. "Mr. Thornton." The woman walked forward, her boots clicking on the hard-packed street. "I received a very interesting package this morning. Documents, testimonies, evidence of crimes stretching back over a decade." She stopped in front of Garrett. "Silas Garrett, by the authority vested in me by the territorial government, you are under arrest for human trafficking, conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, extortion, and approximately 47 other charges that I will enumerate in detail at your trial." Garrett stared at her. "You can't do this. Patterson is the judge in this territory. Judge Patterson was removed from the bench this morning. I've been appointed as his replacement." Ashford's voice was ice. "Your network is collapsing, Mr. Garrett. Every man you've bribed, every official you've corrupted, every connection you've cultivated. It's all burning down around you." She turned to Thornton. "Your evidence was thorough, more thorough than anything the Territorial Marshal's Office had managed to compile in 5 years of investigation." A hint of approval crossed her severe face. "Well done." Thornton nodded. "What happens now?" "Now we take Mr. Garrett into custody. He'll be tried in Denver, where his influence doesn't reach." Ashford gestured to 2 men who'd accompanied her. "Chain him." Garrett struggled as they seized his arms. "You can't do this. I built this town. I own half the territory." "You owned half the territory," Clara said. She stepped forward, close enough to look into his eyes. Past tense. Garrett's face twisted with hatred. "You'll regret this, girl. You and your sisters. I have a long memory." "So do I." Clara held his gaze. "I'll remember everything you did, everything you tried to do, and I'll spend the rest of my life making sure no one else goes through what we went through." "You think you've won?" "I know we have." They dragged Garrett away. His curses echoed down the street, growing fainter, until finally they faded altogether. Clara stood in the middle of Dusty Springs and breathed. It was over. It was finally over. Thornton's hand found hers. "You okay?" "I don't know." She looked at the town around her, at the people emerging from hiding, their faces filled with cautious hope, at the men who'd ridden with them, lowering their rifles, relaxing for the first time in days. "I don't know what okay feels like anymore." "You'll figure it out." His thumb traced circles on the back of her hand. "We both will." The ride back to Thornton Ridge felt different than the ride out. Lighter, somehow. Like a weight had been lifted that Clara hadn't even realized she was carrying. The other riders broke off as they went, heading to their own homes, their own families, their own lives. By the time they crested the last hill, only Clara and Thornton remained. And there, on the porch of the ranch house, 3 figures waited. Lily saw them first. She shot off the porch like a bullet, running down the path, her blonde hair streaming behind her. Clara barely had time to dismount before Lily slammed into her. "You're alive!" Lily was crying and laughing at the same time. "You came back!" "I promised." Josie and Emma reached them moments later. Josie's eyes were red-rimmed, though she'd never admit to crying. Emma was clutching her sketchbook, already drawing, capturing this moment for posterity. They held each other in the yard of the ranch that had become their home. 4 sisters who'd survived the unsurvivable, who'd fought for each other, and won. "Is it over?" Josie asked. "Really over?" "Garrett's in custody," Thornton said. "He'll stand trial in Denver. With the evidence we've gathered, he'll never see freedom again." "And us? What happens to us?" Clara pulled back from the embrace, looked at each of her sisters in turn. "Whatever we want," her voice caught. "For the first time in 2 years, we get to decide what happens next." "What do you want to happen?" Lily asked. Clara looked at Thornton, at this scarred, broken, beautiful man who'd given them everything. "I want to stay," she said quietly. "Here, at Thornton Ridge, if that's okay." Thornton's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes did. "It's more than okay." "But only if my sisters want to," Clara added quickly. "We decide together, all 4 of us." Josie snorted. "You really think I'm going anywhere? I've got a stable to run. Those horses won't train themselves." "Emma?" Emma looked up from her sketchbook. "I want to design buildings, real buildings, maybe a school like Martha had." "You know about Martha?" "Lily told me." Emma smiled softly. "A school sounds nice. The territory could use more education." "Lily?" The youngest Brennan squared her small shoulders. "I want to be a doctor, like the person who would have saved me if Mr. Thornton hadn't." She looked at Thornton with eyes too wise for 12 years.
Is there a medical school nearby?
"There's one in Denver," Thornton said. "You're a bit young, but by the time you're ready, I expect you'll be smarter than half the doctors there." Lily beamed. Clara felt tears prick her eyes. Her sisters, her family, building futures they'd never dared imagine.
Then it's settled.
Her voice was thick. "We stay." That night, after dinner, after Lily had finally exhausted herself and gone to bed, after Josie and Emma had retreated to their rooms, Clara found Thornton on the porch. He sat in a wooden chair, staring out at the stars. A glass of whiskey rested untouched on the railing beside him. Clara settled into the chair next to his. "You should be sleeping," he said.
"So should you."
"Can't. Too much to think about."
"Like what?"
Thornton was quiet for a moment. "Like what happens now. The fight's over. Garrett's finished. Your sisters are safe." He turned to look at her.
"You don't need me anymore."
"That's not true." "Isn't it?" Clara reached over, took his hand. "You asked me something, back in the kitchen, before all this started. You asked what I see when I look at you. You said to ask again when it was over. It's over." Clara shifted her chair closer. "So I'm telling you." She looked at him, at the scar that bisected his face, at the gray eyes that held too much pain and too little hope, at the hands that had killed to protect her and held her while she cried. "When I look at you, I see a man who lost everything and somehow kept going, who built himself into something stronger than his pain, who saw 4 strangers about to be destroyed and decided he'd rather die than let it happen." Her voice softened. "I see someone worth knowing, worth trusting." She paused. "Worth loving." Thornton's breath caught. "Clara, I'm not saying I'm in love with you. Not yet. It's too soon for that, and we both know it." She squeezed his hand. "But I could be, given time, given the chance to know you without bullets flying and lives at stake." "You want time." "I want a future, with my sisters, with this ranch." She met his eyes. "With you, if you want the same thing." Thornton was still for so long, Clara thought she'd misread everything, that she'd pushed too hard, asked for too much. Then he raised her hand to his lips, pressed a kiss to her knuckles. "I've wanted that since the day I saw you standing in Garrett's saloon," he said quietly, facing down a room full of men who wanted to buy you, and not showing an ounce of fear. "I was terrified." "I know. That's what made it brave." He released her hand, stood, offered his palm to help her up. "It's late. We should sleep." Clara took his hand, let him pull her to her feet.
"Jacob."
"Yes?" She kissed him. It was brief, soft, a promise more than a passion. When she pulled back, his eyes were closed. His face held an expression she'd never seen before. "Peace."
"Good night,"
she whispered. "Good night, Clara." She went inside, climbed the stairs to her room, lay down in the bed that had become hers over the past 2 weeks, and for the first time in years, she slept without dreaming of loss. Spring came to Thornton Ridge like a resurrection. The snow melted, the grass turned green. Wildflowers erupted across the prairie in riots of purple and gold and red. 6 months had passed since Garrett's arrest. He'd been tried in Denver, found guilty of every charge, and sentenced to 30 years in prison. His empire had crumbled. His men had scattered. The territory was healing, slowly but surely, from the wounds he'd inflicted. Clara stood on the porch of the ranch house and watched her sisters in the yard below. Josie worked in the corral, training a young mare that Ezra had brought over last week. She had a gift with horses, Thornton said. a natural understanding of what they needed. The stable she'd built was already becoming famous across 3 territories. Emma sat under an old oak tree, her sketchbook open, designing what she called the new schoolhouse. She'd convinced Thornton to donate the land and Harker to raise the funds. Construction would start next month. And Lily. Lily sat beside Emma, medical books piled around her, studying with an intensity that made Clara's heart ache. She was 14 now, still too young for medical school, but she was preparing, learning everything she could, determined to become the healer she'd never had. "They're happy." Clara turned. Thornton had emerged from the house, 2 cups of coffee in his hands. He offered her one. "They are." She took the cup, sipped. "I never thought I'd see it. After everything that happened, I never thought we'd have this." "You earned it." "We all did." Thornton leaned against the porch railing beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. "Ezra asked me something yesterday." "What?" "When I was going to make an honest woman of you." Clara choked on her coffee. "He said that?" "Exact words." Thornton's mouth twitched. "Apparently, the whole territory's been gossiping about us." "Let them gossip." "That's what I said." He was quiet for a moment, but it got me thinking. Clara's heart stuttered. Thinking about what? Thornton set down his coffee, turned to face her fully. "We've had 6 months. Time to heal. Time to know each other without bullets flying and lives at stake." His gray eyes held hers. "I think that's enough time, don't you?" Clara's breath caught. "Jacob, are you?" He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small box. This was Martha's. Her mother gave it to her, and she gave it to me before she died. Said I should give it to someone worthy someday. He opened the box. A simple gold ring lay inside, worn smooth by years of love. "I think you're worthy, Clara Brennan. I think you've been worthy since the day I met you." He took her hand. "I'm not young. I'm not whole. I've got more scars than any man should, and more memories than I know what to do with." His voice roughened. "But I love you. I've loved you since you kissed me on this porch and told me you wanted a future. I've loved every stubborn, brave, infuriating inch of you." He slipped the ring onto her finger. "Marry me, Clara. Be my wife. Let me spend whatever years I have left loving you and protecting your sisters and building something that lasts." Clara looked at the ring on her finger. At this man she'd come to love in spite of everything. At the life stretching out before them, full of possibility. "Yes." The word came out as a whisper. "Yes?" Thornton's voice cracked. "You're sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." She threw her arms around his neck. "Yes, Jacob Thornton, I'll marry you." He kissed her, not brief this time, not soft. A kiss that held every ounce of love he'd been holding back for months. A kiss that promised forever. When they finally broke apart, breathless and laughing, Clara's sisters were standing at the bottom of the porch steps, staring up at them with expressions ranging from shock to glee. "Finally!" Josie shouted. "I thought he'd never ask." "Did you say yes?" Lily was bouncing on her toes. "Clara, did you say yes?" She said yes. Thornton's arm was around Clara's waist. His smile was brighter than she'd ever seen it. She said yes. Emma was already sketching frantically. "I'm designing the wedding dress, and the decorations, and the—" "Breathe, Emma," Clara laughed. "We have time." How much time? Clara looked at Thornton, at her sisters, at the ranch that had become home, and the future that was finally, blessedly certain. All the time in the world. They were married in the summer, under the same oak tree where Emma had designed her schoolhouse. Tom Harker officiated. Ezra stood as best man. Josie, Emma, and Lily served as Clara's attendants, dressed in matching blue dresses that Emma had designed. The whole territory came, ranchers and farmers, shopkeepers and teachers, people whose lives had been touched by the fall of Silas Garrett and the rise of something new. Clara wore Martha's ring, and a dress sewn from fabric Thornton had ordered special from Denver. Her hair was pinned up with wildflowers. Her face glowed with a happiness she'd never dared dream of. When Harker pronounced them husband and wife, Thornton kissed her like the world was ending and beginning all at once. The celebration lasted until well past midnight. There was dancing and laughter and more food than Clara had ever seen in one place. Her sisters danced with ranchers' sons and traded stories with ranchers' wives, and slowly, beautifully, became part of the community that had fought for them. When the last guest finally left, Clara stood with Thornton on the porch of their home. Their home now.
Truly. Any regrets? He asked. Clara thought about the auction in Dusty Springs, about the terror and the helplessness and the certainty that their lives were over. She thought about Thornton walking through those saloon doors, about the gold he'd paid and the bullets he'd fired, and the love he'd given without expecting anything in return. She thought about her sisters, sleeping peacefully inside, safe and whole, and dreaming of futures they'd once been denied. "No regrets," she said. "Not a single one." Thornton pulled her close. "Welcome home, Mrs. Thornton." Clara smiled against his chest. "I've been home since the day you saved us. I just didn't know it yet." They stood together as the stars wheeled overhead, as the night deepened and the world fell quiet, as the past finally released its hold, and the future stretched out before them, bright with promise. Clara Brennan Thornton had been sold like property, hunted like prey, and forced to kill to protect the people she loved. But she had survived. She had fought. She had won. And now, standing in the arms of the man she loved, surrounded by the family she'd protected, she knew one thing with absolute certainty. The Brennan girls had come to the frontier with nothing but each other. They would leave it with a legacy that would last for generations. Because that was what family meant. Not blood, not obligation, but love fierce enough to face down any darkness, any danger, any demon that dared to threaten it. Clara had learned that lesson in fire and blood and tears. She would never forget it. And neither would anyone who heard their story.